Good morning. I'm Brent Adams here with your Rural Strong Morning Ag Report for this Wednesday, January 24th. Leading off the headlines this morning, the American Farm Bureau Federation Convention has wrapped up in Salt Lake City, and on Tuesday, the organization established its 2024 policies. Topping the list was new policy to address the growth of artificial intelligence. They acknowledged that AI has the potential to enhance farming practices and conserve resources, but warned that privacy rights must be respected. As in years past, the organization also placed an emphasis on farm labor. Recognizing the challenges of maintaining a strong agriculture workforce, delegates voted to stabilize wage rates for guest workers and revise H-2A and H-2B programs to better meet the needs of America's farms. Delegates reaffirmed their support for increasing reference prices in the Farm Bill and maintaining a strong crop insurance program, including expansion of eligibility to ensure more commodities are covered. They also added policy in support of additional funding to improve data collection on the foreign ownership of agricultural land, called for changes to the contract poultry pay system, and added policy to recommend Congress investigate fertilizer supply chain outages and tariffs placed on imports. In addition to the policy changes, Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall and Vice President Scott Vanderwall were unanimously elected to another two-year term. Additional policy details can be found at fb.org. Well, speaking of reference prices, following calls by Farm Bureau and other groups to increase reference prices in the upcoming Farm Bill, Republican lawmakers stand in strong opposition to any potential increases. Republican Representatives Alex Mooney of West Virginia, along with Tennessee's Andy Ogles, Brian Mast of Florida, and others, say any increase would drive inflation higher. In a letter, the lawmakers wrote, "At a time when Congress must be taking steps to reduce federal spending, we must resist costly attempts to expand the scope of government intervention in the free market." The lawmakers argue that higher price guarantees would mostly benefit fewer than 6,000 farms. Increasing price guarantees for major crops would mostly benefit peanut, cotton, and rice farmers in southern states, not corn and soybean farmers, according to the letter. Since payments are linked to production, the largest producers get the lion's share of the funding. In 2021, just 10% of farmers received more than 80% of all price loss coverage payments, lawmakers claim. And this is just one of the issues being raised as new Farm Bill policy disagreements on top of spending bills and other fights are adding more hurdles to passing a Farm Bill this year. Senate Ag Chair Debbie Stabenow alluded to her proposal in a recent interview to help farmers without pulling funds for feeding or climate programs, key for Democrats. But it would direct funds away from ARC and PLC reference prices to crop insurance.
We have over 130 different crops that use crop insurance extremely effectively, and it's paid out immediately when there's a disaster. We have 22 crops that utilize the commodity title, ARC and PLC. Also important, but it's delayed in the payout usually by a year.
Driving her point further, Stabenow says many PLC crops already benefit from reference price accelerators in the 2018 Farm Bill.
If we only continue current law, over half the commodities that get PLC will see a 10 to 15% increase currently. And so, to me, we should be focusing on those who aren't.
Politico later reported Stabenow's plan would force producers who want to enroll in the new crop insurance offering to opt out of ARC and PLC. Top ag Republican John Bozeman told the paper his staff's looking at the idea, but other Republicans and some Democrats are not thrilled with forcing farmers to choose. The American Farm Bureau Federation continues to argue for both an increase in reference price support triggers and crop insurance improvements. Meanwhile, U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack says the USDA is on course to continue expanding crop insurance for more products and more producers. More on that from USDA Radio's Gary Crawford.
Experts say climate change is handing farmers more severe weather disasters more often than in the past.
And so it's important for us to continue to focus on risk management, on crop insurance.
Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack speaking to the Farm Bureau Convention in Salt Lake City, Utah this week. He said that he had met earlier with Farm Bureau state presidents.
And I shared with them our commitment to expanding crop insurance.
Vilsack said 30 years ago, only a handful of crops were covered by insurance. Today, 134 crops are covered.
604 varieties are covered. 34 plants. $207 billion in production is protected through this mechanism.
Last year, crop insurance policies paid out to farmers $12 billion of indemnity payments and $19 billion in 2022. These are what Vilsack calls
life-saving payments.
Vilsack says USDA is continuing to expand availability of crop insurance to more products, more producers. Gary Crawford reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Well, a bill introduced last week in the Iowa Senate seeks to provide resources to small grocery store owners fighting to keep their stores open amidst economic and workforce challenges and competition from big box retailers. The legislation would create the Grocery Reinvestment Fund and establish a grant and loan program to help locally owned grocery stores selling perishable foods invest in their businesses. Cynthia Farmer, policy associate with the Center for Rural Affairs, says, quote, the Grocery Reinvestment Fund and program would provide financial support to grocers for cost-saving efforts and business efficiency to ensure long-term sustainability, end quote. The Iowa Economic Development Authority will oversee the grant and loan program if the bill passes. Funding will be available to grocery stores that sell canned and frozen food, fresh fruits and vegetables, and fresh meat, fish, and poultry. The business must employ 25 or fewer individuals and plan to create new jobs or increase compensation for existing employees. And finally this morning, as the cold air of the past few days pushes out of the country, taking its place are above normal temperatures over the next week or so. Here with the details is USDA Radio's Rod Bain.
The nation's cold snap of recent days is about over.
All of a sudden, that cold air is utterly disappearing. A few days ago, we started seeing warmer weather overspreading the western U.S., and now that warmer air is making a quick trip across the central and into the eastern United States, helping to flush out any of that remaining bitterly cold air.
USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says the warmer weather also comes with above normal precipitation in various parts of the country, as well as the increased chance of flooding.
Between now and the end of the week, we are expecting two significant storm systems across the south that could lead to precipitation totals anywhere from 2 to 8 inches or more from eastern Texas to the central and southern Appalachians, also extending as far north as the Ohio Valley.
Rippey adds active weather could develop later this week along or near the Gulf Coast. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Well, you can keep up with the latest from the world of agriculture by subscribing to the Tractors and Troubadours podcast from Rural Strong Media. Each week, I bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot-button industry issues, educational features, and the best in traditional country music. The Tractors and Troubadours podcast can be found at ruralstrongmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We also invite you to join us daily on Rural Strong Radio, our 24/7 streaming radio station found at ruralstrongmedia.com or on the Live 365 streaming radio app for your mobile device. Each day, we bring you our award-winning agriculture programming, as well as the best in traditional country music, mixed in with a little bluegrass, western swing, southern rock, and inspirational music. Again, the place to find Rural Strong Radio is ruralstrongmedia.com or the Live 365 streaming radio app. We're portable, so take us with you everywhere you go while you're working on the farm or ranch. Let's get through the workday together. Well, I'll be back again tomorrow with another Rural Strong Morning Ag Report here on Steve Shetler Media. Make it a great day, everybody.